Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I hope you are having a great day. Let's start with today's stories. Am I the idiot for not returning my inherited apartment? My brother, 37 male, got married about 11 years ago. Unfortunately, 6 years ago, there was a tragedy, and my sister-in-law passed in an accident and left my 20-month-old nephew. At that time I, 29 female, was working in San Francisco. I asked the company I worked for if I could transfer to their New York City location, and was able to do so. I moved in with my brother. He stopped working to spend time with his kid. I did my best to help. I paid the rent and groceries. I tried to keep the meals going when I came from work. I didn't mind, as I really loved coming home to my nephew and the rent was really cheap. The fact was that my sister-in-law had inherited a rent-stabilized apartment from her parents after they retired, and moved to a cheaper area, about 1.5 hours from New York City. The rent was only $1,450-ish, for a 2-bed that was over 1,000 square feet, in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Anyhow, when my nephew was going to start school, my parents convinced my brother to move back to Toronto and live with them. I took over the lease to his apartment, as I was legally allowed to, since I had lived there for a few years. It's been over 3 years, and he started working, my nephew started school, he met a new partner, and he seemed like he was building a life again. Last week, my brother told me that he, his girlfriend and my nephew will be returning to New York, so he has requested to have his apartment back. I told him no, because my fiancé and I were also planning to move in together, and we had already made some really nice updates, with a view to this being a long-term home for us. He would also have to live with me for 2 years before I could transfer the lease, so I would have to delay my wedding. He told me that I was an idiot for stealing his apartment and not letting him rebuild his life, and allowing his child to move back into his mom's and grandparents' apartment, that my nephew should technically inherit it. He says he signed the lease over to me, so that he didn't lose the apartment. His previous wife's parents say I am taking advantage of an unfortunate situation. Now I am thinking I should reconsider, as perhaps I am being an idiot, since my fiancé and I could afford to pay a lot more rent, without it being as difficult as it would be for my brother. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I took over my brother's rent-subsidized apartment that he inherited from his late wife and will not transfer the lease back to him after he left and now wants to come back to NYC. If I don't give him the apartment, he won't be able to afford to live here. No, not the idiot. You have been living in this apartment, paying all the bills by yourself, for 3 years now. You have no obligation to leave your apartment, so that your brother can live there again, just because he wants to. Because it's one thing to ask you if you are still interested in continuing to live there, and if you are not, he moves in. It's another to, basically, demand that you leave your house, so that he can live there again. It's like if I had bought something from someone and then they changed their mind, returned the money, and demanded the item back, even though I didn't agree to return it in the first place. Your brother knew the risk of not getting back his apartment the moment he decided to move. So, unless you made some agreement with him in which you would leave the apartment when and if he asked to, he has no right to expect that from you. Honestly, the only way I can think he could have any right to demand that you move is if he owned the property, but that's not the case. And the people who are calling you an idiot are idiots. Also, I kinda get the emotional element here, him wanting his son to live in the place his mother lived. But still, expecting you to give up an apartment in New York City with this rent price, just because of that. No, it doesn't make sense. Also, if this is the case, the apartment will not leave the family, and your nephew could visit you whenever he wants. In short, the lease is in your name, you are paying the rent, and you stay there as long as you want, and that's it. OP also replies to the comments and gives more info. No one is going to be able to judge you without knowing the agreement you had with your brother when he moved. Was it always a possibility he would be back? Did he say it was yours free and clear? He left to live with my parents in Toronto. He never explicitly said he planned to come back. He just told me that he was signing over the lease to me as if he, the leaseholder, doesn't live there. I could get evicted, and it would be a shame for me to live somewhere else, paying twice the rent for half the apartment. I was the only person that it could have been assigned to. When he left, he was in a really bad place. He had quit his job and was really depressed. It was quite hard for me, but I wanted to help him. That's why I came, but my parents suggested that he should come home as they could better support him. He never said he would be back, and I didn't ask him about his long-term plans. Not the idiot. Your brother just can't decide to upend your entire life based on his own life changes. You have a life and the lease is in your name. At the very least, he should give you 6 months to get your shit together and find another place. Yes, he told me he was moving back, but it would be in the summer. Omitted it in the post. Not the idiot, as long as you will it to your nephew. It can only be transferred to parents, kids or siblings that have lived there for a number of years. Let's go through some more comments. Honestly, he has no business giving her any form of notice, 6 months or otherwise. The lease is in her name and she's the one who lives there. He has no right to evict anyone. It's not like he owns the apartment and is leasing it to her. Some other third party owns it. Best he can really do is ask her nicely to transfer the lease back to him. It sounds like your only options are for 4 adults and a child to live in a 2-bedroom apartment for 2 years so you can transfer the apartment back to your brother, or you move out and you both lose the apartment? Also, did your brother verbalize his expectation of getting the apartment back? I'm leaning towards not the idiot, but unfortunately your relationship with your brother may suffer if you keep the apartment. Not the idiot. It's a lease. Your brother doesn't own it. Previous wife's family never owned it. Random Joe person would live there if you wouldn't have stayed. It is now your apartment. Not the idiot. You moved across the country to help your brother when his wife died, paid the rent and supported him. He then transfers the lease to you so he can move out and raise his kid somewhere else. Your reward for appending your life for him? Get out, my situation has changed, so I need you to upend your life again to accommodate my family. Okay, so there was never an actual agreement that the brother would return to live in the apartment, nor if he would ever return to New York, or if he did, OP would have to give the apartment back to him. Well, what do you guys think about this? Would you give up the apartment? Don't forget to leave your comments below. Now let's go to the update. Update. Thanks everyone for your advice. I have also been discussing with my fiancé, who is happy for us to get a different place in the summer. However, if we did that, he would have to sign a lease alone before our wedding, and I would have to pretend I don't live with him and live at the apartment. That's the only way I can see it work, than me staying with him for 2 years. Then he would have to take the risk of losing the apartment. I can't say he lives with me or has been living with me, as his job is not even in the US. I had to show a lot of proof for the lease to be transferred to me. As someone mentioned about the transfer of lease on a rental control only increasing 20% for a new lease, we looked at this before. There is a cleaner's closet on our floor, and the landlord is planning to incorporate that, and a bit of the hall to create a tiny en-suite, like he has on other floors. That way he can classify the apartment as new, and it will no longer be stabilized. I do have other concerns about my brother that are probably not my business, and I guess he has to start growing up again. I will express them here though. His girlfriend, he's known for just over a year, and how is he just deciding to move to a new city with her? Also, I have no idea what he will do for work, or for childcare. He has a steady job in Toronto right now. He has a lot of help from my parents right now. So I don't know if he realizes how much work it will be. When I first moved in, I pretty much took care of the entire rent for the apartment / household expenses and chores, for over 2 years when he lived there, to give him a break. He would have to be on one income, as I don't think his girlfriend can work as she's Canadian. I will probably have a chat with him in a few days, when I feel more calmed down. And this is what we have so far. I really hope OP can come to an agreement with his brother. And what do you think of this update? Would you do the same as OP? Or would you do something else? And what do you think is going on with OP's brother? Don't forget to comment what you think. Oh, are you enjoying the video so far? If so, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications to know when a new video is out. This helps the channel, so I really appreciate it. Now let's go to the next story. Am I the idiot for accidentally destroying someone's book? Last week, I borrowed one of my friend's books. We're not that close, but we both share a love of reading. Anyway, I was reading said book whilst in the bath last week, and it led to me accidentally dropping it into the tub. The pages are ruined and the book has expanded quite a bit, but in my opinion it's still readable. Of course though, I still felt very guilty and I offered to replace it. She refused and said that I shouldn't worry about it, accidents happen after all. But now I've found out that she's going behind my back and telling all our mutual friends about it. She isn't saying it directly, but she's heavily implying that I didn't try to do anything about it. I'm pretty sure I'm not the idiot, but some of my other friends say I should just be the bigger person and replace her book. However, I'm feeling quite hurt by her words and am now very reluctant to purchase something for her. So what should I do about it? Should I just ignore it or just go ahead and buy her another book? Edit, I've replied to a couple comments, but I think it's better if I just add everything here, so everyone can have all the information. Firstly, I offered to replace the book like 5 or 6 times, but each time my friend told me to not worry, and that it would just be a waste of money if I did decide to replace it. After all, I've already read it, she said to me multiple times. Also, regarding the bath controversy, I often read books in the bath to relax a bit in the evening. My friend knows this and even does it herself. I also mentioned that those were probably my plans. That is, I said something like, I can't wait to read this book in the bath later, and she didn't show any expression of discomfort or whatever. In fact, she slightly encouraged me by saying something like, I'm so jealous, I've got work later, so I don't have time to relax. Jealous in like a friendly joking way. Edit 2. Many people are wondering if the book was extra special in some way, excluding the fact that it's a book she bought for herself, and are also wondering what the book actually was. But no, it wasn't a special edition, nor was it sentimental. The book I got wet was Open Water, by Caleb Nelson. A beautiful urban fiction and romance book which deals with several important issues. I would recommend. This may also come across as defensive, but I truly don't believe the issue lies in me reading the book in a bathtub. My friend has also read the books I've lent her in the bath many times, and though it may seem like I'm careless with other people's books, this is the first time I have ever even slightly damaged one of her books. I truly did feel bad and insisted on replacing it multiple times, but each time she refused, so I just accepted it and moved on. Honestly, everybody sucks here. You shouldn't have even asked, you should have just bought her another book. Even though she said it wasn't necessary, it was the least you should have done. I would understand not buying another one if it was too expensive, and you couldn't afford it, but that's not the case here. But your friend shouldn't pretend that everything is fine, say that you don't need to buy another book, and then talk crap about you behind your back. It's very clear that she isn't okay with what happened. Is she afraid of confrontation? So she doesn't talk openly about how she feels? Either way, it's clear to me that you are both wrong here. You, for damaging your friend's book, not replacing it and still thinking you're right, and your friend for bad-mouthing you. Also, in terms of whether or not you should read in the bathtub, it's your choice. I wouldn't do it with any book, mine or someone else's, with the risk of damaging it. I'm afraid to eat or drink anything near books, for fear of an accident happening. And I'm like that with my books. With those of others, I am even more cautious. Now let's read what the comments say. You owe her a new book. You took a risk with someone else's property and destroyed it. You are the idiot for thinking that you don't have to take responsibility to replace what you destroyed. Edit, you should have bought a replacement and given it to her when you told her that you had an accident with the old one. Your biggest fault here was offering to replace it instead of just doing the right thing. Entirely agree with this. Your friend shouldn't have to tell you, yes, I'd like the book replaced. You destroy it, you replace it. You start this off with you aren't really that close, like that's justification. All the more reason to treat someone else's property with more care than you do your own. Read your own books in the tub. She was crappy to talk shit behind your back, but you aren't really that close of friends, right? Additionally, you are the idiot because now you feel reluctant to buy her something. You're not buying her something. You're replacing property you damaged. You're making her whole. You're resetting the relationship that was thrown out of peace because of you. Everyone sucks here, you for taking a borrowed book into the bath, and your friend for pretending like everything's fine and then talking behind your back about it. If you want to preserve the friendship, tell her that you know what she's been saying, you'll get a new copy of the book for her, but that it hurts you that she told you it was a non-issue and then implied to others that you hadn't tried to fix it. How she responds will be very telling and you can go from there. Not the idiot, it was an accident. It happens. You offered to replace it, and she said no. Obviously she doesn't feel comfortable telling you how she really feels, and that is not on you. However, if I were you, I'd purchase her a new book anyways. It's the right thing to do. And what do you guys think of this situation? What would you do if you were OP? Don't forget to leave your comments down below. And that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time.